Hey everyone, today we're jumping into something that I think we can all relate to. That search for something solid to hold on to when life just feels stormy. We're going to explore this really powerful idea that certain words can act as spiritual anchors for us. So let's dive in. Life can feel just like this, right? The waves of stress or uncertainty or just plain grief can get so high that it feels like you're losing your footing, just trying to keep your head above water. It's such a universal feeling, being overwhelmed and just looking for something, anything to grab onto. And that's really the heart of it all. In those moments, we're desperate for solid ground. And this is where the idea comes in that powerful words, these verses, can actually be that grounding force for us, something truly reliable when everything else feels like it's shifting under our feet. And that brings us to this amazing metaphor, spiritual anchors. So the whole concept is that these verses are way more than just nice-sounding words. They're like actual tools you can use to hold steady when you feel like you're drifting, providing real stability and keeping you from getting swept away by whatever you're going through. All right, so our first set of anchors deals with one of the biggest, most powerful emotions we face, fear. Let's take a look at how these verses offer a completely different story than the one fear tries to tell us. You know, when you really think about it, fear whispers this horrible lie into our ears that we are completely and utterly alone in our struggle and totally powerless to do anything about it. And that narrative of isolation, that's what makes fear so paralyzing, isn't it? And boom, here's our first anchor. It hits that lie of isolation head on. And notice, it's not just a friendly suggestion to try not to be afraid. No, it's a command, and it's based on this incredible promise. I am with you. It's basically telling you to replace that paralyzing thought of, I'm all alone, with the empowering reality that you're not. This next verse from Joshua just builds right on top of that same idea. It connects being strong and courageous directly to that promise of his presence. So the insight here is that courage isn't something you have to somehow find inside yourself. It's a direct result of knowing you're not walking into this alone, no matter what it is you're facing. And this one from Psalm 23, wow. This is maybe the ultimate anchor for those really dark moments. It totally acknowledges the reality of the valley of the shadow of death. It's not pretending life is easy. But the reason for being fearless is so simple and so powerful. For you are with me. That's it. That's the foundation. So if we boil this whole section down, the key takeaway is this simple but absolutely life-changing truth. The main anchor against fear, according to these verses, is the unwavering promise that you are never, ever alone. Okay, so now let's shift gears a bit from fear to a feeling that's often right there with it, weakness. You know those moments when you feel completely spent, like you just don't have what it takes to get through another day? So let's look at two totally different mindsets. On one side, you've got that familiar, sinking feeling of, I can't do this. We've all been there. But on the other side, you have this incredible promise. And the whole point isn't about you digging deeper to find more strength in yourself. It's about plugging into a strength that comes from a totally different divine source. Now, this next idea, honestly, it's one of the most radical thoughts in this whole collection. It's suggesting that our moments of weakness, the things we try so hard to hide, are actually the very places where God's power can show up the brightest. It just flips our entire understanding of strength completely on its head. And this verse from Isaiah kind of tells us how we get that strength. It's not about gritting your teeth and just trying harder. Instead, it says strength is renewed like a gift you receive when you place your hope, your expectant trust in the Lord. Okay, from weakness, let's talk about its close cousin, anxiety, that constant churning of worry and stress that just steals our peace. Let's see what anchors we have for this struggle. This verse from Matthew, it's not some deep, complex theological puzzle. It's just a simple, beautiful invitation. It's presented as a direct call from Jesus to anyone who feels burdened and exhausted with a straightforward promise, I will give you rest. What I love here is the specific action it tells us to take, to cast. That's such an active verb, right? It means you have to intentionally take your anxieties and hand them over, like you're throwing a heavy weight off your shoulders. And why? The motivation is simple and so powerful. Because he cares for you. Now, this is a really crucial distinction. The verse makes it clear that the peace being offered here isn't like the world's peace, which is usually just when there's no conflict around. No, this is a divine, internal peace that can exist even when your circumstances are chaotic. It guards your heart from being troubled. All right, for our last theme, we're going to look ahead. How do we face an unknown future, especially when it feels totally scary or uncertain? These next anchors are all about trusting in a plan that's way bigger than our own. This is probably one of the most loved verses about hope, and for good reason. It's a foundational promise that God's intentions for us are good, they're purposeful, and they are aimed directly at a future that's filled with hope. It's such a powerful anchor against feeling despair about what's coming next. And this passage from Proverbs gives us a super practical roadmap. It really just lays it out in a sequence. First, you commit to an act of radical trust. Second, you make a conscious choice to let go of your own limited way of seeing things. And the promised result? Divine guidance and clarity for the path ahead. This final promise for the future is just so powerful because it brings two huge ideas together. God isn't only with you, like we saw in the verses on fear, but he also goes before you, literally preparing the way. It's a promise of both his presence and his providence. So, as we start to wrap this up, it's worth pointing out that the material we're drawing from actually highlights 20 of these amazing verses. We've only had time to really look at a handful, but every single one is a unique anchor, designed to give you encouragement and hope for a specific struggle. I really wanted to leave you with this last beautiful image from the prophet Zephaniah. It goes way beyond just presence or protection. It paints this picture of a God who doesn't just love his people, but who finds so much joy in them that he literally rejoices over them with singing. Just let that sink in for a second. And that really brings us to the end. The real question isn't just about knowing these verses exist. It's about actually using them. So, as you go about your day, think about the challenges you're facing and ask yourself, which one of these anchors do I need to hold on to today?